Hello. It is Monday morning, June 15th, and this video is late again this week. And one thing I've come to notice when when I'm about to present the next module to you guys, I get presented with deep lessons in my own practice around the module for this time period. And this module is self-compassion. Self-compassion is definitely something that I have struggled with a lot over the course of my life. And I think it seems one of the things that's difficult about presenting this module is that it is such a simple concept. Be mindful, be kind to yourself, treat yourself like you would treat others. Have a little, extend the golden rule to yourself. And I think in our culture, that drives us to have more, produce more, that our identity and our happiness is determined by the external show of identity that we present to the world. What we have, what we don't have, how much of any particular thing that we have. We're taught to always want more. And from a socioeconomic point of view, from the point of view of capitalism, yeah, the more we all want, the harder we'll work to have those things, regardless of its tax on our happiness and our capacity to be of service and our capacity to be compassionate with ourselves and others. And I think there is a very significant and important difference, and this is not my idea, this comes from the really revolutionary work of Kristin Neff, who's a big studier of self-compassion. The difference between self-esteem and self-compassion. Self-esteem comes from this idea that we are special. And self-compassion comes from the idea that we are not, but that we are to be cherished nonetheless. That we are not special, but we are all unique and are born with, as I think I've mentioned, Carolyn Mace says this thing about we are all born with a fragrance, and it's up to us and our resilience whether that fragrance is eau de toilette, cologne, or perfume. And that's directly related to how much we can face and trust what life gives us and trust in the unfolding, that that we will know when to let go and how deeply to let go, and that we will have the courage to metabolize any losses that we incur in the course of that trust. So the good news is you're not special. And the bad news is you're not special. And what we each serve is revealed in letting go of that idea that we are better than anyone else. Because we are not. And we can have more compassion for ourselves and others when we take responsibility for what we actually are, for the sweet, humble, puny humans that are struggling through these puny human lives. So I'm always in this, I don't know how many personal examples to give sometimes, but I think for this particular module, it's important to give a personal example, especially since this video is coming to you on Monday morning, when I do really try to get them on Wednesdays, because I like to do a video on Wednesday and the next Wednesday have the group call. presumably about the tool presented the week before. But my ongoing move and the deep ass busting that I've been doing to make this apartment a place I can thrive has been very consumptive while also working a full time job. So, my most cherished external desire, one that does bring me a great deal of suffering, is that I would love to own a home. I would love to own a home. It is probably my most cherished desire. And I know, as part of my spiritual practice, that my happiness is not contingent on anything external. So it doesn't really matter to my life whether I own a home or rent an apartment. But I have decided that this is something that I'm working toward. No matter the suffering that it brings, I am prepared to acknowledge the suffering that that will bring by not having it, and the suffering that it could bring from actually having it. And I want it anyway, because that's just sometimes how we're going to do things. Because that's part of being a puny human struggling in a puny human life. And so I found the cheapest apartment that I could find so that I could continue to save to buy a place, right? And so I have this very close friend of mine who not only has just bought a house, this perfect little house that was owned by a friend, a mutual friend of ours. And so, because she was my friend, she was first on the list. So my friend who was selling the house called my friend who had expressed interest in buying the house several years ago, as soon as she was going to sell it. And so my friend went through this whole process, and she is going to be able to buy this house. At the same time, she also started dating an ex boyfriend of mine who then was also a former business partner. So she calls me sometimes multiple times a day in her excitement about buying this house and dating this new guy who's doing all these kinds of exciting new things to her. And I can feel the resentment building. And I love her and I'm happy for her. And also, I have to be honest with what I'm confronting, right? And I'm behind on this video. I'm trying to paint and plant things so that this space and this building feel like a place where I can thrive. And I'm exhausted, exhausted. I am running myself into the ground trying to just keep my head above water, right? My job is very physical, and then I come home and do more physical things. And I'm accustomed to really making space for people, really open, soft space for whatever comes in, and really trusting that and being open to people. And so I realized I have to set a boundary with her. I was like, I don't want this man in my life anymore. If you choose to have him in your life, I don't know how we're going to navigate that, but I have to be honest with you. I don't really want to hear about him. That might be something for another friend. And I set this boundary a couple weeks ago when she first started seeing him, and she held back on what she told me about him, but she's very excited about all the wonderful changes that are happening in her life. And where I see myself right now is coming out of an abusive relationship, um, in moving out of a place that I was supposed to be buying with this guy, and then he bought it out from under me when I went to California to empty my storage. So like I'm coming out of a situation that I'm very happy to be out of, but into a situation that feels more like a lateral move. Like I don't feel like things are going upward. I feel like I'm maintaining right now. And so I got very, not very, but like certainly started to feel some resentment building up toward her absolute blossoming. She's got this amazing other lover, then this new boyfriend who's my ex-boyfriend and ex-business partner, and she's moving into this beautiful house, and I'm struggling to make an apartment livable. And like, so I have this another identity turbine thing, conception of myself. Well, I'm holding this group. I'm supposed to be further along on my path. And like, I know that's not true. I know, again, struggling puny human, but I got to this point where I expected more of myself in terms of my capacity to take in whatever comes at me, and forgot that no, I actually can set that boundary and say, I can't talk to you twice today. I might not even be able to talk to you once today. And I had to have that self compassion. I can't be happy for you right now. I'm not happy for you right now. And I feel kind of ashamed about that. you know, I wish I was able to do better right now, but I can't. like, I don't want to hear it, and I don't have to. And I will come back to you when I am better, when I have cleared some of this, when I'm more settled in this place, when I'm unpacked and finished. And to not beat myself up over that. I want to have sympathetic joy for her right now. No, I can't fake what I'm feeling. And this whole practice is not about faking what you're feeling, it's not about resisting anything. I can't resist the resentment that came up. I have to fully allow it because that's the only way it's going to pass. I was kayaking on on the lake a couple weekends ago, and the wind really kicked up on the lake, and it was coming to my side, and where I had to get back to my car was this way, and the wind was coming at me this way. And you can't paddle like that. All you will do is struggle. You will struggle with every stroke. So I had to turn into the wind and face that wind and let that wind just encompass me and my boat, making me and my boat one unit, blowing over us, actually tying me and my kayak together and the paddle, all of us just in that channel of wind. I had to face right into it head on. And then I can paddle straight. But now my path is not going toward my car where I think I need to be. Instead of a straight line, I have to now go this way into that wind. I have to work with the invisible forces that are shaping my day. If I resist them, I will struggle, I will suffer. If I face them directly, then I can move forward. Then the struggle can stop and the joy can come back up. But I can't pretend there's no wind. I can't wish that I had gone out for a paddle earlier. I mean, I guess I can, but what would be the point of that? And I love this friend. And I'm in a sense sorry that she's going to start a relationship with this person because I know him very, very well. He was actually someone I wrote about in my book, Grow Girl. He was the man that I actually moved from Southern California to Northern California for and started this cannabis growing business. And he broke up with me 6 weeks after I moved there because I all of a sudden had too many, I actually needed him. And that's not what he likes. He's a very pleasure oriented person. And for her right now, that's perfectly suitable. But that's a very difficult person to be in a relationship with. And the same was true when we became business partners 5 years later. I thought things had cleared, and he offered me a position that a position that I could not refuse in terms of directing and producing a TV pilot. So I have to not only reckon with those past choices and have self compassion for that woman that I was, to sit and really ground in my home space, bring everything all the way down. Don't let everything get in the identity turbine of like, oh my God, regret. Oh, the squandered time. Oh, why did I blow my life up 5 years ago? Why did I blow my life up after that show failed? Well, I blew my life up because that was part of my path. And I couldn't be here talking to you from the deepest, softest truth of my heart if I had not done that and had the deep humbling, the deep, deep humbling that being at the edge of my life provided for me. And I do think of it now as like something that was provided to me. I had to make that decision that I wanted to be alive. And that was not a clear certainty at that time. And when I decided that I did want to be alive, I decided that the point of my being alive was to be of service. And so my job, my service, my purpose, my passion, my level headed, embodied, grounded passion is deeply connected to self compassion. If I can't give myself forgiveness, how can I continue to move through the world with ease? That was my boss. I'll get back to that later. So that brings me to another point of self-compassion is not letting yourself off the hook. It's not saying, well, like when I wanted to do this video on Wednesday, right? I had to paint, I had to get a garden installed at my new building, which I promised my landlady I would do. Because also I want some beauty where I live because I work on other people's gardens all day. So I need a little beauty to come home to after all that labor. And in Maine, the growing season is extremely short, so it had to get done. And I was happy to do it. But then that delayed this video, right? And then I have the calls from my friend who's very excited about buying her house, and I want to share in that as best I can and as wholeheartedly as I can. So that pushed this back. And trying to finish painting the walls, and my dog is very, very sick, and I have taken care of him. And to roll all of that into a soft, grounded place is different from laziness. It's not just, oh, I'm procrastinating doing the video. I wasn't. Self-compassion brings an incredible amount of stability and softness. So it almost takes away the need for discipline. I don't have to force myself to do anything. I know that me sitting here right now is the video that you're supposed to have. I trust that completely. And the video that I would have tried to do on Wednesday would not have been as deeply from my heart and as vulnerable as this one is. Because I would have been using force and I would have had no power. Anytime I try to use force, I take away my own power. I'm not allowing myself to let what needs to come through. I'm deciding that things should look a certain way. Let me make an outline, and here are the things I want to cover about self-compassion. That actually impedes the transmission that I am trying to make to you. It impedes the energetic message that I wish to transmit to you about self-compassion. Because especially on this topic, on boundaries, a little bit of an outline is helpful. But in self-compassion, it is just agreeing with yourself to enter this soft field and trusting entirely that what arises from it will be correct. It is not laziness, because once you step back and you're in that soft field, what is correct arises. The next right action arises. You don't have to force anything. And every time I go back to thinking, I have to do this, I have to do that. I have to be this. I have to be that. I have to react this way. Oh, that's not a very spiritual reaction to have resentment about her dating this person and buying this house. Well, you know what? That's the reaction I needed to be able to sit here right now. I needed to allow that resentment and really be with it and paddle into it instead of letting it hit me on the side and pretending it's not there. And it's a weird time in the world to have compassion for ourselves. It feels like the world is burning. What can I do? What can I do? Should I run around like Chicken Little with my head cut off, feeling like the sky is falling? The sky is falling. Well, maybe it is time for the sky to fall. Maybe it'll all help us get a closer look at it. What does the sky really look like? What is the sky really made of? Oh, it turns out the clouds are just vapor, and the sky looks a lot like a foggy day. Inside a cloud, you obviously can't sit on it and play a harp. It actually just looks like a foggy day. And so, what are you going to do with that? You're just going to keep walking through it with your heart open and your pores open and your energy in your feet. Roots coming out of the bottoms of your feet, pulling up what's in the soil and bringing it out into the world. I was on this job last week where I had to plant these 5 elder trees. I mean, they're not really trees, they're shrubs, but very large shrubs. And the client didn't realize that there were 2 giant stumps right on the other side of her fence. And so when I went to do the seemingly simple job of planting these elders, it was nothing but roots, giant mat of roots. And I've got my grub hoe, my axe, and I'm swinging it and swinging it and swinging it and swinging it. And the client was like, well, they cut the trees down. And I was like, well, they cut half the tree down. That's only half the tree. There's a whole other half of the tree. The foundation of the tree is all still there. And you can see the little sprouts coming out of the stumps. This thing is still alive. You can't see it. It doesn't mean it's not there. Half of it is still very much alive, very much a part of the soil, very much a part of every plant in this woman's garden. Just because there's a fence there, this external barrier, this fence fiction, the reality is still that the tree is very present. And our essential selves are just like that. What we see, what we are embodying, what we are visibly embodying, what the felt sense of us for ourselves and others is not coming from what you can see. It's coming from what you can't. It's the wind, it's the roots. And our job is to have the courage to embody those things that are unseen and to get our deep attachment to what can be seen, what can be witnessed, what can be held and touched, to be conscious enough of what the limits of that are to get it the fuck out of the way so that we can embody that true power that is not ours. We are not special, but we have a job to do that is uniquely ours. We have a signature to carry, which is uniquely ours. We each have a service assignment that is uniquely ours. And if where we are moving and how we are moving through the world isn't honoring that, then we have to let go. As hard as that is, we have to make that boundary. We have to take those steps backward until we are in a place where we can feel at home in ourselves. And even I think you see the pink, the coral color behind me, like agreeing to be in a space that was the cheapest place that I could find so I could save. And now how can I know that it doesn't really matter what this place looks like for me to thrive? And yet it does, right? I don't want to live in a shithole. And I have the power of my vision of what I like the world around me to feel like and look like, the levels of brightness and happiness and vividness and cheer and energy. I like that. That is part of my essential self to be expressed in my space. So it matters and it doesn't. And it's up to me to navigate where I am allowing a space to be an expression of me and when I'm allowing that space to define me. This space doesn't define me, but I can bring my energy out into it in a sincere, heartfelt, and amplified way. I hope that makes sense. So, to get past this thing with my friend, dating my ex boyfriend and business partner, buying a house, that that sort of how can I describe it? Like that clench and that kink in my pipe. Like I think of myself as a pipe, to all that is. My body is a pipe to all that is. And my spiritual practice, my emotional, psycho spiritual practice, is to build that valve, to build a valve so I am able to metabolize what comes through me. I am able to be aware of what comes through me and to modulate that with skill so that I don't get overwhelmed, so that I don't get knocked out, that I can actually stay grounded and stay in that home space and stay fully in the power that is allowed me. It's not my power, it is the power that is allowed me. When I start to think I have power, that's me using force. And that's another sign that I need to step back and reground. So, does it matter that I found the perfect shade of coral to paint these walls that just delights me? And does it matter that I still haven't unpacked the kitchen and I ate at McDonald's twice last week, which is garbage food, which is something I never do. And I was so hungry after work that I did not care. And I had to have self compassion for me for that too. Do you know how dirty I felt seeing those McDonald's bags and boxes in the passenger side of my car this week? I felt like, I felt disgusting, disgusting. But it's like, well, that's the situation this week. And it's good to have that as a reference point for self-forgiveness and self-compassion. Who am I to judge the people in the line at McDonald's? I do that sometimes. I was like, the supermarket's right there. You could go buy yourself something healthy. What and it would take you probably the same amount of time. And then there I was in the McDonald's line. So who am I? Resenting a friend for having a beautiful unfolding of her path that I have been witness to for years and is so richly deserved. But I can't do it today. I can't eat healthy today. I can't be happy for you today. I can't hear about it today. But I'm going to be very honest with myself about that, and I'm going to paddle into that wind so that I can eventually get to the car. It might not be the path that I thought I was going to take to the car, but I will get to the path. I will get to the car with less struggle because I'm not going to pretend that I don't feel that resentment. I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to go home and cook myself something out of stuff that's still in boxes. And I know I'm too damn tired today to unpack those boxes. And that's okay too. And I'm a white woman, and that's okay too. I don't have to feel bad about that either. I don't have to have put on my hair shirt for being a white person. the more self compassion that I have, the more compassion that I have to give, the more sincere compassion, not because I feel social pressure to say a certain thing or behave a certain way, but because I can trust what is unfolding from my heart and my truth, my embodied truth. If I stay out of my way, I don't have to be full of shit. And if I'm not full of shit, like almost literally full of the shit that I think is myself or that I expect of myself, if I can shit all that out, metabolize it, take what nourishes me, and shit out the rest. That's why the cover photo for this group is what it is. You want the elegance of the blue heron, you better shit a river. That's a lot of space to clear to get that stillness and that precision, catching a fish with one efficient stroke of the head. That is an unencumbered energy, an unencumbered energy, a clear pipe with a skillful valve. Self compassion is not being in a puddle. It's not, oh, well, I guess whatever I do is okay. I'm just going to be cool with whatever I do. Because once you're in that open space of yourself, you feel right action. You feel that impulse, that call. You hear that little voice because you've shut down that identity turbine. You can hear that little voice that calls you to the next right thing, and you want to do good for yourself and others. I don't know if any of you play tennis, but it's like that ready position in tennis. Tennis is actually a good metaphor because like you're in that ready position, that grounded home space, and that self-compassion, and you've got very clear boundaries on a tennis court. They're very clear white lines around you. So this is where you stand, that's where that person stands, and then you can really fucking play the game. Then you can play the game with your whole heart, your whole body. All of your energy can go into it because everything is extremely clear. What's yours is right there, what's theirs is right there, and there is a permeable net in between that everyone agrees is a fence, but everyone can also quite obviously see is permeable. Light, air, all gets through. I'm going to go lay a patio today. My job has expanded to hardscaping, and I am stronger than I have ever been in my life. And I am so honored to share this path with you. And I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful Monday, and I will see hopefully many of you on Wednesday night.